Ooh, I got one.
Throw it back. Ooh, but keep the game. Nice.
Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Bob.
I'm Mike.
And this is the Board Game Rundown, and today we are doing a review of Finspan from Stonemaier Games. I'm sure you've never heard of this game or any of its predecessors. Or you've heard of it and seen all the memes. So full disclosure before we get into this, this is Mike's copy of Finspan. He is a big Wingspan fan.
I am.
None of us here have played Wormspan.
Correct.
And Bob and I are like okay with Wingspan, but don't necessarily seek it out. I think that's a fair.
Yeah, I would play it, but I don't request it.
Fair. So I'll just give a very brief teach. If you want to see like a full play and everything, Mike giving a more detailed teach, you can check out the Patreon video. So if you can support us there, please do. But I mean, really, basically what you're going to do is you're going to have a hand of cards. And by hand, we mean they're going to be on this side of your board here. And on your turn, you're going to take one of your workers and you're going to do one of 4 actions. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to do the action up here. You're going to play a fish. They got a cost. You're going to play it in any of the available spots it can go. If it's got a sun, up here. If it's like twilight, it's here. And if it's nighttime, it's down here. And then it might actually also have like a column, which will have the shaded in edge of that card, either green, blue, purple, or green. And they are shaped so that if the colors are an issue, you can tell just by the shape that is there. So you can do that. You can play a card, or you can dive here, and these you're going to activate. If you've got a fish in this area, you're going to get to draw a card, and then you'll activate any fish here. Same thing all the way down. Each column has like one pre-printed fish on the board, so you'll always at least get to do one of those things. And then if it's the first time you've sent a worker down that column, you're going to also activate the little bonus action at the bottom, which that little fishbone kind of guy means I get to go into my discard pile, grab a fish that I discarded for cost, and put it back over here. Here, we're going to go and put eggs on all of our fish, right? So I can put an egg on anywhere where I've got a fish that doesn't already have an egg. If I've got a fish in this area, again, activating all of the fish that have activation abilities here. And then here, if I've got a fish here, I want to activate it, I can do that. And then if I've got a fish here, I can do that. Eggs, all the time. There's a bonus egg ability here. And then down here on this side, you've got hatching your fish and then potentially moving them. So any of those eggs I can hatch into young, and you go down and I get down here. Oh, I can hatch another one. Sweet. And then here, slow down. You can move either a school of fish or one of your young fish. Schools cannot move through schools, and young fish cannot move through schools. But if you can get 3 of your young in one spot, they turn into a school. Super cool, because instead of being worth 1 point each, they're now worth 6 points. And then at the bottom here, you've got an additional move action. So again, utilizing any if activated abilities when you activate that row or column, excuse me. And then if it's your first time doing that action in the round, you're going to throw that up there. You're basically going to play through 4 rounds, 4 weeks, and that's going to be assigning all of your workers, right? Everybody takes turns assigning all their workers, and then you've got these scoring objectives. So this is like the basic side. On the other side, there are modular tiles, so you can throw down and change up, randomize those scoring options. So, it might be scoring for every egg you have on the board, or for each school of fish you have on the board, or for each young you have on the board, or fish in a row, like all different kinds of things like that.
Fish, all kinds of stuff.
And there's all kinds of different tags on these fish, and they have different costs, but the iconography is laid out very well, and they have 2 great player aids, which also kind of help with some of the verbiage, which usually like clarifies a rule right there. I found like a couple rules that I was about to ask a question on, and I looked at it here and it clarified it perfectly.
Nice.
That's basically how you play. It plays pretty fast, and once you've kind of got the overview of the teach, and you can kind of just get usually like a round, right? Games like this, 1 round in, and you should have a pretty decent idea of the rules. Mike did a good job teaching. We didn't have to get the rule book out.
He did a great die teaching. He came in last.
You did.
That's true. A couple other things I'll add because
Yeah,
I
please
think
do.
it'll help with like some of our thoughts and stuff. Is that like the cost of cards and playing fish and stuff? In this game, you actually have the ability to just discard cards, which I think adds a lot more flexibility. And some of them can consume cards that are already played on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of tweaked a little bit of how. Well, there's a lot of tweaks, but like the resource to play fish is quite a bit different.
Yeah. Nope. Agreed. Good point. All right, guys. So we all just played this, and we should go over our thoughts on it. How about Bob first? Bob, since you are cooler than Mike is on
Temperature-wise.
on Wingspan,
Yeah.
what do you think of Finspan?
Like Mike was just saying, actually, that economy of the playing the cards and using your cards, and then you have the ability to also like take cards from your bone pile, put them back into your hand. I found that really interesting. Now, I didn't get to see. I kind of find I do have a similar problem with this one as I do the original one, where there's so many cards you don't get to see a lot of the abilities and stuff sometimes. So it has these little teeth on here, calling it a super predator, and I saw 0 things referencing super predators. And or even the normal predators. So maybe there is something with a bonus scoring thing, and that's why we didn't see them, because they're double-sided. There you go.
For each
predator
tag.
tag.
There you go.
Yep.
So I guess there is something, but we didn't get a chance to see it, so that was a little unfortunate. But I did enjoy the economy more of because at the very beginning, especially, I had a lot of cards that were. It just cost me cards to put them out. But then I had another card that when I put him into play, I got to get all 3 cards from my discard back into my hand again. So it was just a nice, quick, easy way to get those cards back and to pay those costs. The puzzle of the spawning the fish and moving them around and then not being able to move through other schools or other fish. You can't hatch eggs that have fish on them already because you can't have, schools on already because you can't have them, occupying the same spot. So that was an interesting little puzzle to try to manipulate. I think the little meeples are kind of cute. They got little snorkels on them, so that's cool. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I didn't get to do any of the bottom feeder stuff, which was a little unfortunate because again, I think you only get to see so many cards. Maybe try a different strat next time where I'm drawing more cards and just kind of burying them other undercards. That's one of the things I do in Wingspan a lot is I just go for that ones that you bury cards. So I'm just constantly drawing cards and then just putting them underneath other cards.
Sure.
I didn't try it this time because I wanted to try the, hatching the eggs and moving the fish around and doing that kind of stuff. So, but it was enjoyable. The cards are nice quality, right? Stonemaier, cards.
Oh, yeah.
So they, and then the player aids are really nice and handy. They break everything down pretty good.
I will go next because I know Mike's the biggest Wingspan fan, so I want to let him close out the final discussion on the gameplay and everything. But I did find this more enjoyable for me than Wingspan, and I think a lot of it is kind of the things that Bob was saying. So the way your engine fires off, I don't know, I had a better time building the engine. I felt like even originally, like literally first round, I had like one okay card to play, and it was a starter card because you're going to draw a couple cards from the deck, and then you're going to have like a couple starter cards. And so I was like, well, I'll play this starter card. But then I played that card, and then I was able to started to take actions, which then let me get cards, and then I started to get those cards out. And then, there's potentially that feel bad of like, oh, I've got to discard these cards to play this card. Well, that's a bummer. I like that card. I might want to play it later. You got those so many cards with abilities that bring stuff out of your discard pile, and you can go through and pick the ones you want. So, I mean, you could spend, you could spend 2 cards to put a fish out, which then is going to let you go get 2 cards from your discard. So not only does it build up your engine here, so it's going to give you the ability to sort of activate some of those regions, but now I basically played that card for only the cost of an action. Not every card will work out like that, but and the more things you get out, I was also kind of concerned because it's like, well, originally I only had win played cards and not a lot of win activated. But then as the game went and I started drawing more cards, I started to get more of those win activated cards. I'm like, awesome, because I really needed, I wanted that engine to be better. Right. And then until the last, week or so, actually it was in the 3rd week, until the 3rd week, I didn't have any game end cards. And I'm like, well, what the heck? That's dumb. And then I started getting game end cards and I was able to get those out and make them work. I'm not going to say that timing's going to work every time, but every time I started to kind of think in my head like, oh, this doesn't feel great. Something happened in the game which changed that. You know, and again, by the end of the turn or the end of the game, you're all kind of limited because either your space is filling up or you're just trying to, you know, set up a few extra like end game scoring. But my last 3 turns, I literally took same action over and over and over again. But it didn't feel bad because it set me up for a crap load of points, and it really helped out. And because I was fortunate enough to build a decent engine on this side, it lent itself by accident into allowing me to sort of maximize those opportunities and get a lot of points. So I went from, I will say, the first 15, 20 minutes of this game kind of being like, whatever, to definitely by the middle and the end of the game enjoying it a lot more because the engine started to come together. Even early on, none of the actions felt like throwaway actions. I felt like I was still getting stuff. And so I appreciated that. So I will say I started very, okay, whatever, and then really started to enjoy it by the end of the game. And even if I hadn't won, I felt like, well, I got a crap ton of points.
Things,
You know, I was doing things and I felt competitive. And that's really what I want. I don't always expect a win, but I want to at least feel competitive. And nobody got blown out in this game. It was a tight game. We all scored a bunch of points. And yeah, it was really interesting. Mike.
Again, huge fan of Wingspan. I've played a ton. I've played a lot online. And I like this theme better, number one. Like, birds don't do anything for me, but the art's fantastic. It's a Stonemaier game, so the components are fantastic. I actually like fish better. I'm a fisherman. I'm an outdoorsman. So just seeing all of these cool different fish, many of which I've never heard of, learning things about them at the bottom, just like you get to do on Wingspan, and just some of the art and how different these fish are from each other. Like, a lot of birds are just like the same shape. They're just different colors. But some of these fish just look nuts. And, you know, how they're played can be thematic. So just first, the aesthetic. I like that. Bob, I assume there was no challenges with the colors because the different colors have different patterns on the side, plus they have different shapes of the flippers at the top,
right.
Yeah.
So they have 2 different ways to delineate the colors, which is excellent. This game's a lot more forgiving, because at the beginning of Wingspan, you know, first of all, how the game starts, you get 5 cards, and then however many of them you pick, if you keep 2 cards, you get to get 3 resources. If you keep 4 cards, you only get 1 resource. You get a combination of 5. That's really tight to start. And that almost guarantees that within the first several turns, you're gathering resources. You're gathering more cards to figure out what resources you need. And the fact that all of the resources are in a bird feeder and are rolled randomly, they may not roll the ones that you want. And if they get picked up out of the bird feeder, you only get what's left, and you only have certain chances to re-roll what's in the bird feeder. So
I forgot about that.
The fact that you can discard cards here, the cards stay over here and you can bring them back. The fact that there are fish already printed on the board that you can consume to play. And plus the fact that you start with 2 eggs on your board and a young on the board. It's so much more forgiving to get the game started.
I believe the F word you want to use is fun.
Yeah, if you want to get your engine started faster, this allows you to do it. And it's because it is more forgiving. Do I want to actually say this is cozier than Wingspan?
Yes.
Potentially, yeah, because the beginning of the game is more forgiving. It's so much easier to get cards out.
You're going already at the start instead of having to get going.
Yeah, and even the actions that you get to activate immediately are more powerful. In Wingspan, the first column, you only get 1 of those things. You get to draw 1 card if you activate the bottom row. You have to play a card in that column to then be able to draw 1 card and discard an egg to get a second card. This one is automatically I'm getting, where's that one?
You're getting at least 1 card.
Yeah,
And
right
well,
here.
Actually, you're getting 2 cards.
And then you get
a discard.
bonus 1 out of your bone pile. That's what I've been calling it.
And if you don't
It's your
have one
discard.
in your bone pile, you top deck.
You top deck. So you instantly will get 2 no matter what. And so, yeah, the beginning of the game, the first round, is much more open-ended. And I have to agree that I do like the way you're moving your young around and trying to create schools. That felt really fulfilling.
That's really interesting.
And Tim, you had an amazing hatch engine going.
Yeah, I did.
And I know, Bob, I'm with you. And like when I play Wingspan, and this is a common complaint that people have, is that the egg strategy can be overpowered. Your last 2 or 3 turns, you're just trying to churn out eggs because each one is worth a point. Okay. Well, I always challenge myself to try to go for the tuck engine. But if you don't get the right cards, the tuck engine's just simply not there for you. Meanwhile, Tim had this awesome hatch engine, and he's flipping 4, 5, 6 eggs into young every turn. Well, that diversifies the end game in this. Yes, I was going for eggs the last 2 turns of the game because I didn't have a hatch engine, but Tim did, and it was more powerful, and he won the game. So the fact that this game gives you another option at the end of the game other than eggs, that means this one has potentially a more wide range of strategy in the end game.
And it limits you to where you can only have 1 egg per card. You can't just sit there and pile eggs up on things.
Yeah.
You gotta leave spaces,
which is hence the hatch engine, right? I'm like throwing eggs down, and then I'm flipping them over to young, and I'm throwing eggs down, and I'm flipping them over to young. Yeah.
Yeah, so I also like this quite a bit. Whether I like this more than Wingspan, I'm not sure, but this game's great. If you like Wingspan, I do think this is different enough to have both in your collection.
I would agree.
Also,
I would agree.
Even though this, the other way this is more forgiving. You don't have to play cards top to bottom.
Right.
You just got to match whatever requirements, the location they have to be played. You can play your first card down here if you want, as long as it meets the requirements. So there's just a lot of ways this is more forgiving. It's a table hog, though. I mean, these boards are huge.
They're very tall.
These boards are big. And your cards, and my understanding is the only reason they have you put the cards face up is because they're held sideways.
Oh,
and
sure.
they thought they would be difficult for players. So having all these cards on top of these really long player boards.
And like having your hands face up doesn't really matter because the player interaction is like limited
Minimal.
to maybe you get a benefit because somebody else played a card or activated a thing that lets all players do something. But I would say that I have not seen any negative player interaction. Yeah. So it's very limited, and when it is, it's been positive.
The only issue I have with the face-up thing is that it makes it take even more space on the table.
Yep.
Well, technically, your bone pile could be a small pile like this.
Yeah, but if you've had 2 player boards side by side here, there are no tables that are that wide for the most part. Oh. So I think you'd be pretty crunched.
Well, you'd have to offset them.
You'd have to stagger them. This is a 5-player game. I don't know how many tables would support 5 players. It's a bit of a table hog. So just getting pros and cons out, but this is a great game.
I don't know that I'd want to play this at 5, but I'm thinking about it. And once, like the engines do fire off pretty quick, like because like we had all quick turns, right? Because it's like okay. I mean, and even like sometimes it's like, I'm trying to figure out what card I'm going to pull out of here. You can go ahead and go because again, there's such light player interaction that doesn't matter, right? Well, I know you're going to do that. I'll play this guy. No, it doesn't really matter.
There's also the opportunity to play 18 cards. So again, more forgiving, higher scoring as well. But also there's one other point. Playing at 5, I've played Wingspan at 5, and I don't think it overstays its welcome.
Okay.
It gets closer to an hour 15, hour 20, but I think this game's perfectly fulfilling to want to play at a little over an hour time frame.
Yeah, I mean, I would be worried about AP if you have 5 people, because it could
Depends
be a
on the
long
group.
time
Downtime.
between your turns.
Yeah.
Because it's not, simultaneous. You take your action and then you're waiting.
I would do it, but like a lot of games, 3 and 4 is going to be the sweet spot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
Yep.
something that you said, and I just didn't even think about it. And normally, like, I love a little bit of chaos, but I think one of my issues sometimes with Wingspan is it's so hard sometimes to get the resources you need to get the birds out that you want to get out. because of the way, like, well,
The
did I
random
roll
resources.
them? Are they left for me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with here, like, all of my resources, I am generating
available.
myself. Like,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
literally, I want to play this guy. Well, I better get more cards out because I got to discard a card to play him.
Yep.
Oh, I want to play this guy. I better get some young out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what actions can I take? And I can always take the actions to get the things I need to put the cards out. The hardest card technically to get out was my whale shark because I had to consume a school of fish to do that.
Right.
Which means I had to get a school of fish, which is worth 6 points, but that whale shark is worth 12 points. And he lets me put eggs on like everything in a row. So, I mean, it can be even more than 12 or more than the 6 point net, win on that if you play it right. So I just really thought that because I had access to the resources, and if I spent them wrong, it's on me, and I wasn't just hosed by bad rolls or just other people drafting what I needed, whether they're hate drafting or not, because that level in Wingspan can kind of create some like, well, I guess my turn sucks.
Right.
Like I didn't have anything. I mean, I had turns where it's like, well, I'd rather be doing this, but I kind of need to make sure I'm doing this so I can set that up. So a suboptimal turn for an awesome turn is like a great trade-off, right? And this, I had a few of those. And even then, I guess it's technically not suboptimal because it did exactly,
You just gotta see you're setting it up.
Yeah.
I think we're all in a consensus that the way resources are handled in this are better, and it
more
is
fun.
more forgiving, and sometimes more forgiving means more fun. You're not stuck.
Well, and I like mean games when I want to, but I just don't sit down to play Wingspan to play a mean game.
These are meant to be cozy
Yeah.
games, and
Yeah.
I think this one, I dare to say, might be cozier than Wingspan.
I tend to agree with you there. All right, I guess we need to rate this game, right?
Yes.
Mike, how do we rate games at the board game rundown?
We score them between 0 and 10. We'll each do that individually. We'll add those scores together, divide them by 3. That gives you an average. The average is our rundown score. That's what we put on BGG and Discord.
Right on.
That is
Mr.
it.
Hooper,
It's me.
what do you give Finspan?
Well, my criteria, I would like this in my collection. I would reach to play it, so it gets an 8 for me.
I really want to play Wormspan. This kind of makes me want to play Wormspan even more. It's an 8 for me.
I'm probably one of the weird ones where like this theme appeals to me more than dragons do. Like
You should be a dragon hunter instead of a fisherman. It's much cooler.
Yeah.
So I like this theme more than Wingspan. I actually like the way the resources are handled better. And I'm a big Wingspan fan, and I enjoyed this a lot. This is an 8.5 for me.
Gotta mess it up.
And I think while Bob's doing the score, I think it's also important to note that I feel like if you are a Wingspan fan and you play this and you like it, there's room for both. If there's
Yes.
room on your shelf, there's
Yes.
room for both. Because I feel they feel like different games. It's sort of like Dominion and another deck builder. Like they've got similar bones, but they feel like different games to me.
The cascading action thing and how you play the cards feels similar, but the resource management way different, and the spatial puzzle of getting your young to create schools is new. But yeah, it's definitely a great standalone version of Wingspan for sure.
All right, so once we take our scores and average them, we're gonna get 8.2.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's pretty solid.
I want to throw one other thing that I liked about this game that a lot of games that do this kind of thing don't, or do, and this one doesn't.
Do.
I don't always love like, if you've got this thing next to this thing, then it's worth this many points.
Oh.
Like I feel this is, because then that's like just another level, and it can be another level of frustration because if you're not drawing those things to then set those things up, but somebody else is, you're just kind of like, well, that looks like that would have been fun to try to do. But because there's so many fish in these decks, I still felt like I was able to do all the stuff I wanted to do because I wasn't like, I need a predator next to this guy, next to a venomous fish,
Right.
next to an electric
I hear what
fish,
you're
and a
saying.
camouflage fish. Like, I like that. I don't want to have to always feel like I'm hunting just for the tags that I need to trigger off like a big combo. Like,
Right.
I like that it's all just kind of here, and I'm messing with these things more than tag hunting through the whole game.
Another thing I would add that I like better about this is that The in-round scoring and Wingspan is highly egg focused. So again, that just lends to the egg strategy is the more powerful strategy. There's more than one strategy in this game, and even just the basic in-round goals are diversified. But then you start adding these in where it adds more points for schools and small fish and predators. It's more than just chasing eggs. And so I think this one is more diverse in the way that you can approach playing it well and scoring a lot of points.
Yep.
So yeah, this is great. I can't wait to play again.
Yeah, much better game for me too.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Well, this is Finspan. What's your favorite span game? Let us know. So far for me, it's
Lifespan.
Lifespan. I don't know. I've had good rounds and bad rounds.
It's up and down, but yeah.
Tons of room for expansion content here too. There's
sure.
millions of species of fish. There's 100 cards in this deck. This thing's going to
No,
expand.
it's scientifically proven. There's only 100 species of fish.
That's all there is. That's all that counts.
It's all that's there.
That's all we allow on government forms.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Matt, thanks for teaching this game. I'm glad we all had a good time with it. And Stonemaier, thank you for making this game because we all liked it. Anyways, for the board game rundown, I've been Tim.
Bob.
I was a faceless cusk.
Ooh, you yellow box fish, you.
Clownfish, all of you.